All right, this is Sophie, and this is Tanner, and this is their roadmap to success. She's, as you can see here, a very excitable dog. This is called demand barking. If I give her even a correction when she does this, it's going to make her want to continue doing this. So I'm not going to correct her. I'm just not going to give her any attention. Now, a lot of what we went over in this session is really ways for her to develop some self-control. Now, I moved a lot faster in this session than I normally do because the Guardian's actually sat in another session of mine, and so she already kind of was ahead of the curve with a lot of things. I'm going to talk about those things that I normally talk about real quick, and then I'll talk about all the other stuff that's new for this one. So we talked about increasing exercise with the stairs. So remember, you have your husband at the bottom of the stairs. Call her down when she comes down there, give her a treat and say Mexico, or whatever the word that means go down. Then call her back up when she comes up, give her another treat and say Aspen, or whatever the word does mean go up. So we should have a down upward for the basement and a down upward for upstairs. So going from here to upstairs, maybe we call that one Canada, and then maybe come up with these funny command words. And so that way we can say Canada, it means go all the way to the second floor, and Mexico means go all the way down to the basement. So and then coming up from Mexico, maybe we'd call this one, whatever, red, and then coming downstairs is blue. But the idea is there's 4 separate command words. One to come up to this floor, one to go down to the basement, one to go up the next floor, and then come down here. Even though this is the same thing, going down and coming up are different actions, so it should have a different command word. So the first time you do this, do it with an empty stomach, and just keep on having her come up and down until she doesn't come out anymore, and count each down up as 1. And basically, we want to keep on doing it with an empty stomach until she just says, you're crazy, I'm not going down there anymore. And just at first do it with one flight. Do it from the main floor to the basement. Eventually, you can do it from the basement all the way upstairs. And so that's why we want to have the 4 separate command words. So the first time we do it with an empty stomach until she just stops coming. Now we know what our maximum number is, which I'm guessing for her is probably going to be around the 80 range, which we can probably do in about 5 to 7 minutes. So basically what we want to do is deplete that energy. So she doesn't like to play fetch. She doesn't really like chasing the lasers. Set games is another one that we can do. The idea is keep that exercise journal for about 2 to 4 weeks. Write down how many up downs and the time of the day, and with the exercise that he gets as well. You're a good boy, you'll get one. And then set games would be great for him because it's stimulating, but it's not really hard on his joints. And then so you write down the time and how many set games or whatever these things, exercise, walks are still good. And at the end of the day, we give each dog a letter grade, A through F. And if it's anything but an A, then the next day, we play around with the elements. Instead of getting maybe 30 up downs, we do 40. So I usually practice between 1/3 and 3/4 of the dog's maximum number. And so every dog's gonna be unique. So we wanna find the number where they stop doing it and we know the maximum, then about 30 to 75%. And we're gonna figure that out because each day we're gonna try different variables, and then we're gonna crash down. And then we're going to kind of grade the day, and then we keep on playing with those either more repetitions or whole extra exercise until eventually we find out the exercise that she needs. Now, on days where the Guardian goes to work, I would give her more exercise. I would go closer to that 75% zone before we go to work, and then we come home, let her go outside and get her bodily fluids taken care of, and then do it a little bit more. So you'll do it at different times, but also, don't be afraid to, or remember to set her up for success. Before you have guests come over, she should exercise. We have an event coming up soon. Well, she should get a lot of up downs on the stairs before they come over, but make sure she has at least 15 minutes to recover before the first person knocks. And then basically play around with those elements until eventually you find out what form of exercise they need or how much they need to set her up for success. Now, also for her, since she pulls on a leash on walks, taking her out on a walk, or excuse me, the stairs, and then give her 10 minutes to recover, and then going for a walk can be a wonderful way for her to take off that top level of energy and put her in position to succeed as well. All right, so let's see. That's exercise. We also talked about rules. Not being allowed in the furniture for 30 days. Well, all these rules should be 30 days as long as the problem's still going on. Not being allowed in the furniture, and we already have dog beds, so they already know how to use them. If you have problems motivating them, let me know, and I can show you a video with that. For the dog bed, for the actual couch, what I would do is just go to Amazon, and you can get something called X-Mats, the letter X, M-A-T-S. And you'll have to get probably 6, maybe 7. I don't think they get up in here. So basically, you put those down. They're little books you open up, and they have little white plastic spikes. The dogs won't want to sit on them and won't feel comfortable. So now the dogs get out of a practice of getting up on there. After a while, it's no longer a habit. And we always give dog beds at the same time when they're already comfortable with them. Oh, okay. So another rule would be not being allowed to go in the kitchen. I showed the Guardian how to create that scenario. Remember to microwave the bacon or whatever it is and practice having them stay outside the boundaries before you do your actual cooking. When you're eating here, they shouldn't be allowed in the L shape between the ottoman and the couch. When you're at the table over there, I'd say that they're not allowed on the carpet around the table. And clearly not allowed in the kitchen when we're cooking food. I also make the dogs sit before they go in and out the door. They're very good at that. And then when they're eating, I would go to a structured format where he gets to eat first, and when he's eating, she has to stay 7 feet away. She has to stay behind a certain boundary. She doesn't have to necessarily say here. She just can't come within 7 feet. When he gets done, he gets a little hand feeding. When he gets done, we make sure his bowl is empty, and then he has to leave the room, and then she gets to come in and eat. When she's eating, he's not allowed to come in. So that way we're controlling the food. We eat first, so the dog sees us eating first, and then sees that we're keeping the other dog away, so they don't have to eat their food fast or watch their own back. And then if they leave food in the bowl, I usually pick it up and dump it, but make sure you put the empty bowl back down. So it will take a little bit longer to eat, and I would give each dog a command word using the passive training that I usually do. So when I feed my dogs, I say grub, chow, feast, and lasagna. So maybe he is lasagna, or she's lasagna, maybe he's sushi. So every time he takes a bite of food, his first bite of food for 2 months, you say sushi. When he hears sushi, there's food in his mouth. When she hears sushi, there's no food in her mouth. So it doesn't mean the same thing. You're not supposed to be licking your lady parts. And so, because she's got allergies. So they have a unique command word to eat, which is helpful. Speaking of that, that's passive training. So every time they do things that you want, say the word. She goes here, we're going to just pet her and say nest, or just say nest if you're too far away to actually say the word. So after a while, enough repetition, you can say nest, and she knows to go there, which she probably already knows. But also, every time they come to you, pet them and say come. Every time they sit, pet them and say sit. Every time they lay down, pet them and say crash or chill or whatever your word is. They bring you a toy. Name each individual toy. So that way you have a better, richer form of communication with the dogs. Let me see. We also went over the escalating consequences of disagreement. Remember to hiss first as a warning before they break the rule. Then we do the second or third consequence, either standing up and turning or marching towards them. And create situations where you can help them practice those things. Don't just go to cook dinner. Okay, I'm going to cook dinner. I'm going to leave 5 minutes early so I have time to practice this. And then when the dog kind of sits or lays down, then I can start doing it. Now, the actual meal prep. Now, when you're walking away from them, remember when you're walking towards them, be very assertive and fluid in your movement forward. When you walk backwards, take a step, left, right, stop, and pause for a quarter second. If they stay put, left, right, stop again. If they come forward, left, right, and they start coming forward, hiss and rush towards them. And if it's hard to do it with both dogs, then put one dog outside and practice with one dog, and then switch dogs and practice independently. So you develop that good skill set on their own. Let me see, what else did we go over? We went over a whole bunch of exercises I normally don't do, but we were able to move faster. Yeah, so we went over a touch exercise. So remember when you karate chop, make sure you are karate chopping. If the dog's nose is here, we're karate chopping at a diagonal angle. The guardian was going like this, and the treat was falling off. Also, once you chop, your hand is frozen. Don't go like this and then bring it back, or don't go like this and give the dog the treat. So once the dog touches his nose, you put the treat there, and then they say the word target. At first, you're going to chop with it a couple inches, then a little bit further, then a little bit further. At first, they have to just turn their head, then they have to lean, then they have to take a step and multiple steps. This is also an alternative way of calling your dogs to you. So that's a great one to practice. I would practice that one maybe 2 or 3 times a day with each dog for a couple days. It's pretty easy. You should be able to, within 2 or 3 days, have that one down cold. And then if the dog's doing the wrong thing, you say target, and then run over here and touch their nose. We also went over a focus exercise, and the focus exercise, remember not to say, and not just for the focus exercise, for any exercise, don't say the command word until after the treat goes in the dog's mouth. So the focus exercise, again, you're going to hold those treats here and wait for the dog to look up at you. As soon as it looks up, raise it to your nose and go straight to its mouth. Now, we want to do this in stages. The first stage is 1 second, 1 second, and then say focus after it goes in the dog's mouth. I use about 12 treats. And you want to do this in different parts of your house. And eventually you get to the point where the dog's just staring at you the whole time. Then you go 1 second, 2 seconds for the second movement only. The first one to your nose is always only 1 second. And again, it says as soon as the dog looks at you, but don't make any sounds or any enticement. Don't move your hands. The dog needs just to look on it. And as soon as it does what you want, then we reward it and say focus after it goes to their mouth. So when you get to the point where within a week, we can go 1 second, 15 seconds for the second movement. You're coming over forward, aren't you? There you go. Come. And so this is inside the house with no distractions. So nobody should be eating. There's not a lot of craziness on TV or weather or whatnot. The next stage is to practice in the backyard. And we practice in the backyard, make sure that there's no dogs out there in the neighbors' yards. There's nothing really excitable. And let them go and fart around for a little bit first. Then sit down and go back to 1 second, 1 second. Now you can move a little faster, maybe 1 second for 4 treats, and 1 second, 2 seconds for 4 treats, 1 second, 3 seconds for 4 treats. And it gets to the point where within about 2 or 3 days outside with no distractions, the dog can focus for up to 15 seconds. The next stage is when you're out walking, when there's nobody around, there's no reason for them to be distracted. They're already distracted because it's a walk. So now when we're walking, we're going to do this with movement. So now we're making it a little bit harder. So as soon as the dog, every once in a while, just have a treat in your hand and say focus. The dog looks up at you, you touch your nose as you're walking, you go 1 second, focus. And do that, and I would have a whole bunch of them on the walk, and eventually 1 second, 2 seconds. And eventually 1 second to 15, 1 second up to 15 seconds here. Actually, when they're looking up at you, I guess you still do a movement. And so the idea is eventually they're going to we can redirect and get them to look at us instead of looking at something else, because she's dog reactive. And so once first thing she's going to do is be like, and start staring, lower her head, her ear's going to go back or go forward, her tail's going to go up, her hackles probably get up, she might stop breathing or breathe really fast. Those are all warning signs, and those are leading up to her reacting, which is what we call above threshold. The whole point of this is getting her out of trouble before she gets above threshold. Just like if I'm having an argument with somebody, at first we're arguing and it's casual, and then we get to level 2 energy, level 3 energy, and by the time we get to like 8 or 9, we're really angry and really emotionally invested in the conversation. And when we end the argument, it takes me a couple minutes to calm down. But if you stop me at level 1, it's easier. So the whole point is to be able to recognize her body language. As soon as she starts staring, we say focus, and she looks up, and then we move her away from something temporarily until she let the other dog pass. And once we get around the car or shrub, then I can do a bunch of shorter focuses to really captivate her attention if the dog gets close, to prevent her from reacting. Now, eventually what we like to do is find an area where you have kind of a triangle shape of vision. So let's say that I have a path here in front of me, and I can see in between here. From here over there, there are trees, and from here over here, there's trees or houses or whatever it is. But I can kind of see through them. So what I do is I find a distance where my dog can sit and still have people pass. So I even tell the dog to sit, and keep on moving backwards until you can find that where the dog will sit, and take a treat while the dog passes. So now you know that you're far enough away they don't perceive it to be a threat. Then what you do, and this is a low level of intensity, then when you're kind of we're watching, we see somebody's coming and they're about to come in the clear. So right before, a half second before they come in the opening, I look down at my dog, and Sophie kind of is just like that, and she looks up at me. I give her 1 second, and if after 1 second she doesn't, then I say focus, and she looks up at me, and I go like this, and I go, however many seconds to give the person time to clear. And she gets done eating, and she looks, oh, they're gone. And so we keep on doing this until eventually, you always give her 1 second once they come into, once she sees them, you give her 1 second. And then after a second, then we give her the focus command. After enough repetition, she's going to see the people and automatically look up at you. We call that an autofocus. When she does that, give her a jackpot, 5 treats in a row. Focus, 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 focus. And then we want to keep on practicing at that distance until she gives you 5 autofocuses in a row. Let's say we're at 50 feet away from the trail. Well, the next time we come back, I would practice at 49 feet and keep doing that until I get 5 autofocuses. Then 48, 47. This is a version of classical condition, which is what we did with the doorbell. And so eventually you can get to the point where you're really close and she starts to associate. I look away from other dogs and I get treats. So not only am I not reacting to the other dog, I'm doing something, I'm looking away, and then something positive is happening. So that can actually have a positive association with the other dog. Now I'm hoping that with a combination of rules and structure will take care of her issues. Sometimes I have a very strong prey drive. We might need to do a follow-up session where we do some behavior adjustment training, where we bring another dog in where I'm controlling the handler, I have the handler under my control, and we bring the dog close enough, and we provide distractions. I don't want to go into that here because it's already a long video. So I really want you to focus on this stuff for about a month. And if in a month from now, when the weather's starting to get nicer, if she's better but she's still reacting, well, really, for the first month, I want you to focus on the stuff in the house. The next month, then you can start practicing outside with the focus like I just got done describing. And we get to the point where you're pretty close and she starts reacting, always step back and practice at the level that's what we call sub-threshold, so she's relaxed, crash. All right, so we also, the video above talked about how the guests can help us with the door. So remember, for the door, they're just only gonna come in when she's calm. We're gonna wait, and then we're just gonna reach. And I'm just gonna kind of let you go through that video above because I described it pretty well. The other thing we can do is use the technique that I showed where I basically step on the leash several feet away from the door, where the dog has about 3 feet of leash, but they can't get to the door or where the person is. So a person comes inside, stands sideways to the dog can only make it to here, and it's like, oh, please let me pet you. And we just wait for the dog's energy to calm down. When it does, then we turn to engage, and she gets excited, we turn back. There's if you go to dogdownproblems.com, click on dog training tips and type in honey jumping, you'll be able to get videos where it shows all this information, or it shows how to do that. And then the other one is where we had somebody outside and we had somebody in here. So I would at first what we did, and this is only at first for the first couple times. After a while, we don't want to do this first stage. So right now, if I ring the doorbell, it causes the dog to run there. So what we did was I had the guardian throw a treat with the dog looking onto the dog bed. And as soon as she licked it up, I rang the doorbell. Well, she took another step that way, but then I wasn't coming in. So after a while, and we just kept on doing this. After a while, she just kind of started hanging out in the dog bed. And then what we did was I rang the doorbell, and after I rang the doorbell, the guardian gave her the treat. So this is classical conditioning, and this actually helps the dog understand that when the doorbell happens, if I'm here, I'm going to get a treat. So after a while, instead of running towards the door, I'm going to run away and run all the way over here. Now, I'd have the dog bed over where we had it, where we were practicing, and eventually, each time we do it, I would move it maybe a couple inches closer here when we're doing the exercise. And eventually, you'll do it all the way over there. But if you rep this one and take your time, and I would have each practice session maybe with about 10 or 15 treats. Don't do it just one time. Now, this is what we call warmed up. When it's cold and somebody just rings the doorbell, that's going to be hard for them to go there. So, you can have a treat, and if she looks at you, then throw the treat here and get her to come back over there. And we can assign a command word that means away or something like that if we want. But the way we're doing this is doorbell. If you're repping it right, the doorbell means I go over here, or I'm already here. Who's giving me a treat? So let's see. What else did we go over? I think that's pretty much it. The guardian took good notes. Now, if you forgot to ask me about something, or if there's something else something that's not working, please call me or text me. If I can't, I probably have videos where I can share it with you. But if I don't hear from you, I assume that everything's going well. All right. So what I'm going to do? Let's Tanner. What's that?
Turn off.
No, not quite yet. Tanner, puppy, come here, buddy. It looks better if I wrap this up with video. So this is Tanner, who is a Golden Retriever, Great Dane mix. Come. And this dog that you can't see over here, Tanner. Come here, buddy. And this is over here is Sophie. I promise she's here. And this is the roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it.